have Zuki to the front. And also if we could keep the speeches a little bit briefer because we do have to leave in half an hour. So yeah.
Oh mate, I'll sit down. Sorry, ignore my feet.
Just briefly before, because staff can't stay here forever, if you do have a voting card, could you, not in a big rush, but like one at a time, just go over during the speech and then give your voting card in, just because we have to be nice to everyone. Sorry, Zuki. Go ahead.
So like, I've got, many pages of thoughts here that have just sort of accumulated over the year, and I've sort of like hammered them out on paper, and that was going to be the basis of my speech. But obviously, considering that that's a lot of thoughts, and then there's a lot of other stuff that goes around that could go on for a while. Basically, I'm just going to sit here with this next to me. I'm going to talk to you. I'm just going to unleash thoughts and stuff. So if this doesn't make any sense at all, like my res exec speech, I wholeheartedly apologise, but just pretend you're listening, and we can all go home and be happy. Just, I suppose, kind of before I begin, there have been some words that I knew I was going to have to say ever since I first sort of saw my bar chart on that screen many months ago. And that was Edward Meakin Sparks. If you are watching, there's the camera, you were right. You all know what that means. No one else will, but well, it's probably yes. But yeah, Ed, you were right, and it pained me to say that. Yeah, so I've had a good year. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, when I first sat down and started thinking about what I was going to say when it came to stress, I started thinking about a lot of the negatives that I've about this year. All in all, I really love my year. And people have often said to me, especially before the officer elections, they said, Zuki, why did you run this year? Don't you wish, being the second year that you are, that you'd run the year after and avoided all this hoo-ha that's gone on? But to be honest with you, no, I mean, I've loved every minute of this year. Well, nearly every minute. I mean, the minutes when I wasn't crying or nearly crying, I've loved this year. And I want to thank all 7 of the officer team for that, and the not-allowed as well, sorry. And you lot, everyone gets bangers. So yeah, there are some bad things. I mean, like, I think more people think I'm a twat than they did this time last year. I'm not looking at you too much, so don't shake your head. And for some reason, there's this bizarre theory going around campus that I'm some sort of staunch conservative. I'm not quite sure where this has come from, but I don't really get into party politics. I'm not very good at party politics, so nothing wrong with being a staunch conservative, but personally, it's just not really my bag. And there is obviously a minor blip. I did anticipate when I first put my name, Zuki Majuqwana, on that ballot form, that I'd be spending a lot more time doing, housing and community. It doesn't quite come into fruition this year, but alas, I've learned different lessons from what I anticipated, and it's been a very positive experience. From this, I like to think that there are a lot of positive changes come to the world of housing and community. We've got, I'm just going to talk about good things for a second. We've got, obviously there was my Zuki Says Relax campaign, which I was very proud of. Our first moving in campaign ever. We've now got Wi-Fi in halls as of December next year, which came from a Guild Council mandate, so you guys well done for that, especially the RAs, I know you guys worked very hard on that. We've got a milk float currently driving around Selio, collecting up unwanted goods that are being thrown out by students and donating them to charity, reducing the landfill, cleaning up streets of Selio, and raising money for the British Heart Foundation. Oh my god, it's perfect. So yeah, if you've got any unwanted stuff, then give it to me. And yeah, so the housing community world has been a good place. We've achieved a lot there. Likewise across the board, we've got a brand new website coming along. We've got a second sports fair in the works. Mark with Joe's card, bravo. I've got them in my wallet. I'm a very proud man and a much more rich man. So you know, we've achieved a lot of good things this year, and I'm pleased to have been a part of it. But I have to say at this point that it does upset me slightly, because often I will be sat on my desk and I'll flick onto Facebook to post a status about something or whatever, and I'll have a glance at the Better Guild forum. And often, I hate to say that when my legal people are, and often the comments about the team are just so negative, and yet, really, if you think about it, if you just take a step back and just watch, you see that actually we've achieved a lot, and it has been a very positive year. So that's my first thoughts. I'm going to have to speed this up a little bit. The second thing, I just want to talk briefly about where I've come from, because I think there is a very wrong perception of me. I mean, Simon earlier sort of overlooked the fact that I was black. I think that he's not alone in doing that because, I don't know, I come across very different to the people who sit around the street corners with caps on. I know that's really making a very broad social generalisation there, but I think that is something that does help people's minds. So, I first got into the student movement in high school, in sixth form. I ran to be head boy and won, but then lost. It was a very interesting occurrence. And if you are a sort of an advocate of democracy, or in any way love the idea of freedom of expression and freedom of speech, then you may want to shut your ears at this point. This election was very strange. I mean, school elections are so different from campus elections. I stood in an election where students could vote, the students in the school could vote, but their vote counted for 1/3 of the votes of teachers. Teachers had 3 votes to a student's 1, which was obviously very interesting. Obviously, after the speech, there was then a vetting stage, a final stage. So, of course, every election needs a final stage. And that was naturally an interview with the senior managers of the school, because that's just how it works. And I won the election outright and got told in my interview that they were going to scrap the election and start all over again because of the comments I'd made in my speech, which completely tore the school apart. They deemed that my affiliation with the students was too strong and were not going to give me my position as a result of that. Now, I've always found it, well, at the time it really wasn't funny, but since then I found that quite amusing. And those words have stuck with me like a freaking scar on my heart. So, yeah, that's kind of what got me into the realm of student politics. And the reason I'm sort of saying that is because, like, I think a lot of people misunderstand why I'm here. I mean, I've been called a guild hack in the past and a careerist, and that's really not where I'm coming from. I think that the people who know me most and people I've worked closest with will be aware of that. I'm going to try and speed up a little bit though. I love you. So, yeah, that's sort of what happened then. I got to university and did loads of stuff. I want to quickly say just 2 or 3 that's not going to happen, lots of words about a few things that have happened to me before I became an officer. Firstly, I became an RA. Now, RA's in the room. You have your opinions on what being an RA is. There's very few of you here. I'm sad, but well done. Keep going. But yeah, I bloody love being an RA. It was on par with this year in terms of goodness, so that's pretty good. In fact, I'd say the goodness better than this. No, anyway, it doesn't matter. But bloody loved it, and please do value the rest of your time as an RA, because you can learn a lot, you can do a lot, you can achieve a lot, and you know, you'll take some very special memories away from you. Second thing is Carnival Rag. Now, Carnival Rag I was only on committee for 7 months, and my only regret about the Guild of Students is that I did not use those 7 months in the best way I could have done. Instead, I decided to want to be an officer and do my degree and other silly things. And one thing I'd just like to say to anyone from Carnival who's listening, especially who was on that committee, is I'm sorry I didn't give my all. I'm sorry I didn't put my every breath, every heartbeat, and every moment and every thought into that position, and that's something that I have to carry with me, I guess. But I do love Carnival. They do some amazing stuff, and I'm glad to have been a part of it. The other thing is trustee board. Yes, I was a student trustee once before I became an officer. I got demoted. It was pretty awkward. But being part of the trustee board, like, I recommend it, honestly. Obviously we can't all do it, well, or maybe we could, who knows. But you do get a very unique insight to sort of a different side of governance of the guild, and if you're interested in that, like, it does change your view. And trustees are not fundamentally evil. Trustees are volunteers, just like the people in this room. They're volunteering their time to help assist in the governance of the guild, and that is something that I think people often forget. And these people have got full-time jobs on top of that. These people have got families. These people have got all sorts of things. So yeah, the trustee board is not as evil as people may think. Speeding on very quickly. Yes, so another thing I'd just like to briefly comment on is the sort of linking back to some of the comments that have been made about the officer team that I mentioned earlier on. There seems to have been this inherent distrust between student body, guild council, and the officer team this year. I'm not sure quite where this is sparked from. Well, I've got some ideas, but I think that this is, if there's one thing I would like to have done differently about this year, not necessarily a regret, but something I would like to have done differently, and if there's one thing I think that the new team needs to definitely take forward and learn from, that is that having a constructive working relationship with Guild Council and indeed with the student body as a whole is so crucial and so vital to having a successful officer team. There should be disagreement, there should be debate, agree, but when we reach the point of having insults and having a sort of typo off, where you can point out other people's grammar mistakes or whatever between guild officers and students, it's really not constructive. So Ollie, Franklin, other people in the room, Simon, any officer next year, please do take heed and please don't repeat the mistakes that we have. Just have a constructive relationship and listen to students and love students. And I'm not saying we've been terrible, well, it sounds really bad. We've been good and we've tried really hard. We're engaging students more than we have in the past, but I think that there's a lot more negativity than there should be. So on this note, I'm going to turn briefly to these guys here. These guys are bloody marvellous. Like, can't wait for a fine selection of people to work with.
Zuki, just briefly, got like 2 minutes because we need to be done.
Okay, Luke, I love you, and we're gonna get married one day. You guys can come through if you want, but this guy, they broke up with my girlfriend, he was there for me, and I was gonna be sleeping in a field with the RAs, and I was really sad, and I really didn't want to do that, so do you know what he did? He slept with me in that field. I mean, your ability to criticise people, criticise constructive is immaculate. Liz Cross, you're beautiful, and I'm not saying that because she's a woman, I'm saying that because it's true. I'm also saying it because your passion and desire to improve things to student groups is absolutely remarkable. I think that is something that I wish I had to do the same. You wrote something that I think you're a dick. But literally, you are a belligerent bastard, but you get things done, and I admire that about you. Mark Harrop, you should not be here. You shouldn't, because if it was me, I would have given up a long time ago, and you haven't, and that's been absolutely remarkable. Ed Bauer, when I first wrote down what I was going to say about you, I wrote, my mum once said to me that if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. But I do have something nice to say. I don't quite understand you, I'm going to be honest with you. I really do not understand where you come from. I understand the principles, I understand basic things that drive you forward, but I do not understand you. And I wish I did. But one thing, I was just listening to what you were saying there, and you care. And it's taken me all year to realise this, but I think you do actually care. And sorry, it sounds really harsh, but like I've spent many hours in battle. Remember the first time I met you, I was in this chamber and you were sat just there and you were both no confidence. And I sent you an email afterwards being like, oh no, it was a different time. But I sent you an email and it was criticising you and then you responded and like I got a bit of a glimpse of Ed Bauer inside. But I think you are actually, like, you're a good man, you do care, but we need to like agree on how to do stuff and do it that way. So yeah. You, I want to comment on you quickly. Bloody love you, Johnny Dolan. You are, he carried me through my campaign along with that lovely lady, a man called Joel, a man and a girl called Hannah Varley. This man, you said to me at 5 and you're pissed, I never say anything nice about you, so I'm going to make damn sure I say something nice about you now. This man is a genius, he's so clever, it hurts. Like, but he's clever, like, blue, that's all I have to say. He's clever. And I'm so glad that I asked you to be my deputy campaign manager. I'm so glad you got me elected. I'm so glad that you're tall and everything. Like, you are remarkable. You're a remarkable individual. You care about things. You have an intelligence that you use in a very remarkable way for good things. And I think that you're going to go far, Dolan. And one day when you do go far, when you write me a letter so I can frame it and put it on my wall, that'd be really nice. Thank you. Sandy Trott, you're beautiful as well. That's not just because you're a woman. This lady, we shouldn't be friends because I'm disorganised and Celtic and awful, and she's really not. She sits there all elegantly perched upon her stool. When I was sat here, I've got boots on. So, Sandhya, when you just dragged me out of the mud and were like, oh, it's fine, I'll be your campaign manager, Zuki, I really didn't expect that.
Sorry, Harrop.
And yeah, sorry, Harrop. But I'm gonna say this actually when we get home because we're running out of time. I don't want to be selfish. Tim Lucas, I'm sorry about Precious First. I've been a bit rubbish, but I've also tried quite hard. But this guy keeps me going, keeps me doing stuff that I shouldn't otherwise be doing. And if more people hammered on officers' doors and spoke to them in person instead of bringing motion skill council, a lot more would get done in this place. I'm just going to quickly, oh no, I haven't got time for my story, have I? I've got a really good story. Basically, I'm going to say it in a minute. There's a man who is very close to me, and he, the reason I really want to say this is because it's quite relevant to the situation now. A man really close to me, he went to 4 universities before he got his undergraduate degree. He went to 4 universities in 4 different countries on 2 different continents. This man, he grew up in apartheid South Africa in a society that didn't accept him for who he was fundamentally. This man was kicked out of his own country on the grounds of being a terrorist. This man, he's bloody ridiculous. Sorry, I've written some stuff down, but I'm not going to look at it. This man, when he was at university in Zimbabwe, he was in a student union, and a student union with 2 bars. The ground floor bar was a very shitty bar, sorry, excuse my language, and it was a bar that was for South Africans in Zimbabwe. The underground bar was a bar for Zimbabweans in Zimbabwe, and it was very nice and it was plush and it was wonderful. This man went down into the Zimbabwean bar when he was in Zimbabwe as a South African, with his friends to see, just to enjoy a nice bar in his student union. He got beaten up and chopped out. Like, we talk about safe space in this union quite a lot. We've had endless debate in this chamber. And we talk about the value of education, we talk about access to education, we talk about how education is not free in this country. And yet, this man, who I'm talking about now, my dad, he was kicked out of his country, he was beaten up in his own student union for being a South African, and he had to go to 4 universities and 2 continents in order to get his degree. Now, I'm not saying that the education system we have here is perfect. I'm not saying that our campus is brilliant, but what I am saying, I'm not saying that our guild is infallible. What I am saying is we need a bit of perspective on these things when we talk about them. We need to appreciate that while, yes, there's room for improvement, there's always a worst case scenario, and we are not that worst case scenario. We should be proud of what we have achieved. We should be proud of these names on these walls who have done so much for us. And we should be proud of us as a student movement. And that's where I'm going to leave it. Thank you very much.